Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Overwatch Weekly. I wanted to open this video up just by saying if you hear any noises in the background, like people working on something or rain or anything like that, it is raining. I think it's mostly stopped now, but there is still a chance for some, and I have people in my family working upstairs. I work tomorrow morning. I have to get this video done, so they should be done at this point in time, but just in case they're not, I wanted to warn you guys. But with that warning out of the way, let's jump into this week in Overwatch news. And there was, a little bit of stuff that happened. We got a new hero, but, that's not that big of a deal. Never mind, it's a huge deal. We got a new hero. Wrecking Ball is the new hero. It is a tank. I have an entire video where I showcase his abilities. And that will be linked in the description as well as in the cards, which I've never used. So, for whatever reason, I've never used the cards. So, that'll be up there. And if it isn't, well, then I couldn't figure it out, and I'm an idiot. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about Wrecking Ball. Any changes that come to Wrecking Ball in the next week or so, I will talk about. There's currently no customization options, no interactions, anything like that. So as those things get added into the PTR, or if they wait into the live server to add things like that, I'll talk about them when they come out. But for now, we just have the hero in his base form. But with a PTR update comes other changes as well. So Hammond is live, or Wrecking Ball is live on the PTR, as well as some other changes. So the first one I want to talk about is damage fall off. 5 heroes received changes to their damage fall off. And if you don't know what damage fall off is, it's just that with certain weapons, the further away the target is, the less damage you do. That's all it is. It's not every weapon. It's not every weapon's fire. Some weapons have it on their primary fire and don't have it on their secondary fire. It's really, you just have to know. I will have a link in the description to everything about damage fall off you need to know. As well as, right now, I'm going to tell you some of the changes that were made. So, Bastion, McCree, and Soldier 76 all had changes to their damage fall off. They had the minimum damage at max range increased from 30% to 50%. So now, they do a little bit more damage the further away the enemy is. That is true for Bastion in both his Sentry and Recon form. McCree only has his Peacekeeper, so that's true for that. And Soldier 76, that is true for his Heavy Pulse Rifle. His Helix Rockets have never had damage fall off. They still don't have damage fall off. You don't have to worry about that. May had changes to damage fall off. Her Endothermic Blaster, which used to have damage fall off, I don't know exactly what percentage it was, but that doesn't matter because she no longer has it with her secondary fire on her Endothermic Blaster. So, any across the map snipes you get with May will be just as good as any up close snipes with May with her Icicle. And lastly is Widowmaker's Widow's Kiss, and it has damage fall off applied only to her automatic primary fire. Her range or her scoped fire is still completely unaffected by damage fall off. Doesn't matter how far away an enemy is. If you're scoped headshotting with Widowmaker, it'll do the same amount of damage. But her automatic primary fire now has 50% damage fall off at max range. So the same for Bastion and McCree and Soldier 76 now applies to Widowmaker's automatic primary fire. So that's it for the changes to the damage fall off. Next, we have some changes to Hanzo's Storm Arrows. They got a nerf. The duration was decreased. Decreased from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. And the cooldown was increased from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. So you have less time when you click the button, and you also have to wait more time between each time you click the button to use the ability. Already had a damage nerf a couple PTR patches ago and a couple live patches ago now. So now, on top of that, there's also a duration and cooldown nerf. So they're trying to balance out Hanzo, who was already broken with Scatter and is now a little bit more broken. There are some changes to Sombra that I'm going to just skip over for a second. We'll get to those in a second because Sombra is a whole major topic of discussion, but I don't want to talk about that just yet because there's been some big things going on there. And I want to talk about some changes to assault maps in quick play and arcade mode. The objective time for assault maps in quick play and arcade is being reduced from 5 minutes to 4 minutes. It was already 4 minutes in competitive play, but it is now going to be 4 minutes in quick play and arcade. So now all 3 modes have 4 minutes of objective time for assault maps. So that would be Hanamura, Horizon Lunar Colony, Temple of Anubis, and Volskaya Industries. So all 4 of those maps, instead of 5 minutes to attack the objective, you now have 4 in quick play and arcade. And that's just because they felt that, assault maps, it's designed to be easier to hold point B if you're on defense and easier to take point A if you're on offense. So if there was a quick take of point A by the offense because it's designed for them to take it, then the defending team would have to hold out for like 8.5 minutes, and sometimes that's just not possible. Eventually, your defense is going to falter, and I think it punishes teams that play really well, but it's like, yeah, but 8.5 minutes, eventually one little mistake may happen and it just steamrolls. So it makes sense. So now it's 4 minutes instead of 5. But we can move into Sombra, which is the most important thing in the PTR besides our good old friend Wrecking Ball. So Sombra has 2 of her abilities have changes now. Her Stealth and her Translocator. And they are still getting changes, they're still tweaking things with Sombra. So we're going to start with the initial changes, and then we will move into how they've changed things since then. So Sombra's Stealth now lasts indefinitely. Right? There is no timer on Stealth. There is a cooldown between uses of it, but it doesn't end when you click it. So you go into Stealth mode, you can run around for 10 minutes if you wanted to, if the game lasted that long. If you never get detected, you'll never break Stealth. But with the indefinite Stealth, there's some things that are reduced with Sombra that Sombra can't do anymore. So Sombra can no longer contest objectives while invisible. She can also, unfortunately, not move as fast. Her movement speed was decreased from 75% to 50% for the buff. So the buff that she used to get was 75%, now it's 50%. And the enemy detection radius was increased from 2 meters to 4 meters. And her Translocator got some changes, which is that it now lasts indefinitely, much like her Stealth, but it can also be destroyed, and it has 5 health, and it beeps now, so that people can hear it. And the radius is, I don't know how big the radius is, it's pretty big. But a lot of people weren't happy with these Sombra, quote, buffs, and a lot of people saw them as nerfs. And a lot of people are like, why does she not move as fast anymore? We can be invisible, but now we can't make some of these jumps we used to make and all this other stuff. So, on July 2nd, Jeff Goodman came out with another post where he talked about some of the changes that Sombra will be getting on the PTR. And I believe they are live now as of July 3rd, because there was a PTR update, and I think they're live now. But if they're not, they'll be live any day now. So, the first thing is that the detection radius, which was dropped from 4 to 2, is now back at 4. So, it's still going to be useful for Sombra in that way. Or actually, it was at 2, they dropped it to 4, then they brought it back down to 2. I messed that up. I had it reversed. Now you have to be a lot closer again to be detected. The Translocator, in order to destroy it as Sombra, before you had to actually point your mouse at it and then click the interact button. Now you can just click the interact button and it will destroy it automatically. And if you're in a Symmetra teleporter and you click the interact button, Symmetra's teleporter takes priority, so you'll go through the teleporter and it won't destroy your Translocator. Just of course be careful if you're going to go through the teleporter and you'll have a Translocator up. Make sure you're in the teleporter when you click interact and not a little bit before, because then you will lose your Translocator. Another thing that has changed is the enemy sound cue for the Translocator. As I mentioned, it had a pretty big sound. Now it's pretty small. You have to be basically on top of the Translocator to actually hear the sound and the beeping. And I'm sure in fights, if it's a really close team fight and you're trying to figure it out, you might not even hear it because you hear other stuff going on instead. So that's there to help Sombra out. Sombra's EMP now works on Wrecking Ball's Minefield, which is his ultimate ability. And it disables the mines for 10 seconds, which is massive, because that gives your team an ability to push through a doorway that they couldn't push through at all, because they had to go through this minefield. Now, there are no mines to worry about for 10 seconds, which is a long time to get a team through a choke. And the final thing is that you can now interrupt reload by hacking. They are most likely not going to change back to the ability for her to contest objectives while invisible and the 75% speed increase. And as Jeff Goodman said, the goal of these changes is to make her stronger overall, even if it means being slightly weaker in some areas, which I agree with. I think this overall will help Sombra. I think a lot of people just want, when they see buff, and then they also see abilities that got reduced, they go, well, that's not a buff. But you don't want to make a character too good. If Sombra's still struggling, they can give the 75% speed boost back, and they can give the ability to contest objectives back. But overall, that's really good, and I think that makes Sombra too good, and then they're going to nerf Sombra again. So I think it's fine the way it is. I think it's going to end up working out in the long run for Sombra, but for now, that is what we have in store for Sombra. Final thing I want to talk about has to do with Junkertown, the map, and there's been some speculation over the past couple weeks because before we got Wrecking Ball, the voice lines that the Junkertown Queen speaks on the Junkertown map were gone. If you don't know what voice lines I'm talking about, if you approach the first checkpoint on attack with with Junkrat on your team or with an Omnic on your team, and I believe in general you might have heard them, but I know definitely Junkrat and Omnics have voice line triggers. You would hear the Junkertown Queen say something, and those voice lines have been gone. A lot of people thought maybe that meant the Junkertown Queen has become a hero. Of course, at the moment, she is not a hero. Michael Chu confirmed this is just a bug, and they're working on getting this back in. Or maybe not a bug. He just said, I'm not sure what the time frame for this fix is, but she should be talking again in a future patch. My guess is either it was a bug, and it just happened, and they just didn't change it until now, or what I think is also very possible is they added some with the addition of Wrecking Ball, and they didn't want to accidentally put it in, so they just took them all out, and they'll put them all back in, because people would be able to find the Wrecking Ball ones, and they didn't want people to find that. So, that's my guess for where they are. There were also people talking about how Junkertown Queen's weapons were gone. That has been debunked, and it is just graphics quality. So if your graphic quality is too low, you might not be able to see them. That's all it is. And that is every story I have to cover. Next week we're going to have some things. I'm sure there will be some changes to Wrecking Ball. Maybe the cosmetics and whatnot will be added by then. The Overwatch League playoffs start next week, and the World Cup teams for Overwatch are being released. So when all of the rosters are released, I think I'll talk about them. So whenever that happens, it happens. But that is the end of this week. If you enjoyed this video, if you want more videos like this in the future, consider liking and subscribing. And of course, I'd love to hear from you guys. So comment down below your thoughts on Sombra and the changes that she's going through. Comment what you think about Wrecking Ball. And of course, check out my channel if you want to see some other stuff related to Wrecking Ball and Overwatch in general. But I'm going to end this video off here. If you guys enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, as I said before. And I will see you all next time.